What's going on, everybody? This is the Trophy Chasers Podcast, Episode 2. Kind of a late start again. We ran into some odd issues that we didn't have the first time recording, but trying to get through it. So we still wanted to bring the show to you guys, didn't want to cancel that, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a few topics where we skipped over last week that we wanted to bring back up this week. We'll also be going over some new news items and some talk of upcoming new releases and stuff. So kind of a slow week. The show shouldn't be nearly as long as it was last week. But if you guys want to call in and be part of the show, there's one of the issues right there. Every once in a while the video feed stops, and I don't know why that is. But if you guys want to be part of the show, just feel free to call at 302-TCP-SHOW. If you have anything you'd like to say that relates to one of the topics we're talking about, feel free to call in and put in your input. Otherwise, we will open up the callers to anything gaming related as soon as the show's over. So that's how that's going to work. So feel free to call whenever you'd like. Otherwise, you could wait till the end and then talk about anything. But we're going to go ahead and start off with what we missed over last week. We wanted to talk about the game of the generation. We did a bunch of our game of the year choices and everything like that last week. But we're going to go and start off with the game of the generation. So what have you guys got? What's your reasoning behind that?
So I can go first. Not very sexy, and it's going to seem kind of populist, but I don't think a game has impacted me more than Mass Effect 2. There's a lot of great games out, and last week we talked about The Last of Us. And as a total production, I think nothing comes close to it. But from an immersion perspective, from your character creation, from the story progression from Mass Effect 1 up and through 98% of Mass Effect 3, the lore, the science, the writing, the only thing that rivaled that to me, and I'm a pretty big tech head, was the Star Wars saga. And it's a shame that what happened to the franchise, but still, if there's one game that I love and I've always loved to play, for me, it's Mass Effect 2.
Which one of the three were your favorite? 1, 2, or 3?
Oh, it was 2 by far.
That's what I've heard.
One was certainly ambitious, very different, much more of an RPG in every sense of the word. But I think the combination of action, third-person shooter with the RPG elements was unmatched and quite frankly unfounded until Mass Effect 2 was introduced to all of us. Mass Effect 3 became more of a Hollywood production. And I think there were mass rumors, and this has been talked about across the internet ad nauseum, so well documented about the rush to the end. That ended a lot of it for me. It ruined a lot of the story progressions for me. But 2 was absolutely phenomenal in the progression from 1, in the ramp up and integration of choices. That was my favorite.
Yeah,
without question.
See, that's the one franchise I have not been able to get into. I've tried to play Mass Effect so many times, and I don't see the appeal. I don't know what it is.
The first one?
Yeah.
The first one, Flip?
Yeah.
Or the second one?
The first one.
The first one's very difficult to get into. Matter of fact, just for full disclosure here, I played Mass Effect 2 when it was finally ported to the PS3.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it so much I bought it on PC because I wanted to see it in higher resolution, and I wanted to incorporate some of the choices that I didn't have a chance to make through a mod that most of the folks provided out there in the internet world. Loved that so much I went out and I bought Mass Effect 1 on the PC and replayed that. Didn't have as much of the fun, and I can tell you what drove me was the fact that I knew what was happening in 2. All in total, I think I played Mass Effect 2 probably 6-7 times between the PC and the PS3, generating every scenario that I possibly could, engrossing myself in the codex and all the stories. Mm-hmm. Awesome game. Cannot imagine the hype that I had going into Mass Effect 3. But yeah, so if you're going to try to jump in the series at some point in your life, Flip, you definitely want to jump into 2. 1 is not a good entry point for it unless you're an absolute zealot.
See, that's just always so odd to me, just jumping into a series without starting at the beginning. But I've heard a lot of people say that should just start with 2. But maybe I need to finally just give in and do it. Anyway, what about you, Mike Guy? What was your game of the generation?
I kind of want to cop out and say all 3 Uncharted, but
You gotta pick one.
I'm gonna go Uncharted 3, and it's
Really?
I go back to Naughty Dog, and I know 3 sometimes gets probably a little bit more hate. As far as an Uncharted game goes, it gets a little bit of the hate because of how it was made. The sets were made first, and then the story was made around the sets. But watching the PlayStation 4 reveal event last year, watching it streaming online and hearing the Uncharted theme playing, it's one of those themes. When you hear it, you want to play the game.
Yeah.
At least for me, and it's to me it's like watching one of my favorite movies that I can just watch over and over again, even though I know everything that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I may know what the characters are saying. I'm still engrossed in it. I find myself when I go back and replay it, I'm not skipping through the cinematics, which I normally do after I beat a game, because it's just, you just want to enjoy every piece of it, and it's, Mass Effect 2 is a phenomenal. I gotta go Uncharted 3 because it's just Naughty Dog at their best again, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you liked Uncharted more than The Last of Us?
I love The Last of Us, but to me, like, The Last of Us is, it's something that I'm trying to think of the best analogy I can come up with. The Last of Us is phenomenal in every way, but it's not something I think you can go back to like every couple of months and replay the story, because I'd almost fear that would lessen the impact, of the story. But whereas, like in Uncharted, it's more of that, it's the Avengers, the video games, basically, grab your popcorn, your controller, sit down and play it and have a good time. You feel like playing it again 6 months later and enjoying it all over again. You can do that and still be wildly entertained and not get a diminishing return still on it.
Okay.
I can't argue. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I can't argue with you one single bit. Love, I'm a big Uncharted fan. And matter of fact, for all the hate that Uncharted 3 gets, I think it primarily derives from how great Uncharted 2 was.
Right.
I loved Uncharted 3. I thought it was much more endearing and much more technically beautiful. And quite frankly, I think it was incredibly fun. Incredibly fun. Especially the freaked out purple haze moments at the very end.
All right. Like I said last week, I got into the last console generation kind of late. I was only in it, I think, the last 2 years of the cycle. So there's a lot of stuff I missed out on or played late and didn't get the same feel that everybody else would have gotten, just because it had already been talked about and I already knew about things. So a lot of it wasn't really new to me when I played it. But if I had to pick one game of the generation, for me, it's kind of odd. Like most people say BioShocks or Mass Effects or like Uncharted. I've heard that. Grand Theft Auto. I've heard a lot of things. Mine's completely off the wall, out of left field, but it's Batman Arkham City. It's not really from a graphics point or necessarily to a point from the story aspect, but overall it's the combat. I think Batman Arkham Asylum really took superhero games to the next level. That was when that came out. That was the best one the best superhero game you'd played since like Spider-Man 2. The combat was perfect. Everything worked. And then Batman Arkham City took that one step further, really refined everything, gave you the more open world feeling, and I enjoyed Batman Arkham City every minute I was playing it. I think that was the best game of the generation, in my opinion.
Yeah, Batman must have a rabbit's foot, right? So you have the Batman the movie series that comes out, right? Christopher Nolan It revolutionized all superhero movies. And then, of course, the Batman games, like you said, Flip. And you're right, it truly did revolutionize um, video game superheroes. And for the first time, folks realized, oh my gosh, you can have a great, video game that involves superheroes. No more Supermans, no more Spider-Mans, no more sucky Wolverines.
Yeah.
And of course we have the greatest superhero video game fan in the world with us, with my guy. He has probably 10 million of those games. He collects them. But no, I think you're spot on. But,
yeah. I wasn't too impressed with the new one, Arkham Origins. I like the story. I like playing through it the first time, and the way they put the twist on how Batman met the Joker. I like the story aspects of it, but it took a step backwards, and obviously it's because the companies swapped. I'm looking forward to what Rocksteady has planned for their next gen Batman. I've heard rumors that they have something that comes out this year, and they're trying to annualize Batman, and I hope that doesn't get the same curse that everything that gets annualized happens. But we'll see. We'll have to see what happens.
I definitely agree with you that like Arkham City's been the pinnacle of the Arkham games.
Yeah.
Just it just expanded everything, and it's it improved on what the first game did, and it truly is. I'd say hands down the best, comic book based video game that's been released. I'd say going back the last couple generations. Excluding stopping at like the 16-bit era when we had the side-scrolling beat 'em ups like X-Men 2 Clone Wars, things like that. But like Arkham City's definitely raised the pinnacle that you just can't have these cash-ins on movies. And then, granted, Activision does a pretty good job on their open-world Spider-Mans. Those have always been pretty solid games,
Right.
but the linear ones not so much. But Arkham City was definitely the pinnacle, and what whoever starts making more Marvel games does hopefully really strives for and achieves that.
Yeah. And just one more thing I wanted to touch on before we move on. The combat in Batman Arkham City was so good that so many people have tried to rip it off. Like, you play Remember Me, and everybody who plays that game says it's Batman Arkham City combat with story elements from various other games. I can't remember the other comparison that everybody made. But seeing, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but there's so many games that really do copy the Arkham City combat style, and I think that says a lot as well.
Yeah, matter of fact, it's a lot of that's being talked about, and I guess can you really be blamed for copying something within your own wheelhouse, your own family? Warner Brothers' new game, Shadow of Mordor, the combat system, although with a sword, is a blatant cut and paste of the Batman fighting mechanisms, which was incredibly fun.
Yeah.
Incredibly fun. Matter of fact, I had more fun kicking people's butt with Catwoman.
Yeah.
than most of them.
Yeah.
Like, here's what I would say to that. Like, it's awesome when you see that, but it's you hope that something new gets brought to the table when they mimic that and they improve on it, because there's always room to make things better, but they can add to it and add more layers to it, and it's as long as they're doing that, it's I'd be fine with a multitude of games, kind of using that same basic combat system.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about everything we could talk about that game. I wanted to move on to our favorite trophies of last year. We're going to talk about platinums, but first I want to talk about your individual trophy, whether it was something you thought was hard and you enjoyed getting it, something you feel like you can actually show off, or just something that kind of humored you. For me, it was in Grid 2, which was, the whole trophy list was made from PS3trophies.org, which I think is now PlayStationtrophies.org, and their sister site Xbox 360 Achievements. They made that entire list. Most of the trophies are all puns from various other games, but the one that I personally thought stood out the most was the "I'ma let you finish," which is, you amassed more fans than Taylor Swift has Twitter followers. That's 23.5 million, by the way. I thought that was pretty clever, and that's like one of the final trophies you get in that game. That made me laugh. The whole trophy list was really funny. Yeah, like one of the first ones you got was, I think it was called "Call Me Maybe." It's like once you first start to become a thing, once you become popular, you sign with an agent, and that's where that trophy comes up. So the whole thing was interesting. But what have you guys got?
I'll say the 500,000 speed point trophy in Need for Speed Rivals. That was probably one of my favorite trophies that I've earned, just because I know the very first time I was on my run for it, I was at right about, I think like 415,000 speed points and got busted. and then after I completed one of the last races and saw that I could get like 300,000 speed points doing the last race, and just finally achieving it just was nice. I figured out a way how to get it without attracting too many cops to take me out, and went forward and enjoyed it.
Yeah, you just got to play that as the cops, then that becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, to get the platinum, you got to do both. So.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, you got to play as both the cop and the.
Why don't you have to play as them both? But I thought you can get the 500 speed points from playing as the cop. It just doesn't track it the same way, but it does unlock that way.
You may be able to. I didn't think I could get it that way, to be honest.
Oh, they made it a little bit harder on you.
Yeah, but it was worth it. And, it made my enjoyment of going after it a lot more.
Yeah. What about you, DMC? Favorite trophy?
Well, last year, I think I probably didn't have more fun than when I was playing Ninoku.
Yeah.
And that, getting my first familiar to the golden familiars and leveling those guys up, just never ceased to be fun. Jumping on the dragon, flying around the world. That felt like I was playing inside a whimsical world. That word is thrown around a lot when you play that game. It's the feeling that you get. I really don't know any other adjectives to describe it. But yeah, with respect to the most fun I had, it had to be that game. No particular trophy in general, but I think about this one, right? Apparently, there's a level up that allows you to jump. You can't jump on anything, you just jump. For no reason, you're just running around, you jump, you get a trophy for that. And it's one of those cute, awesome things, man, about that game that I really, really, really loved.
People love jumping in their games. I remember when Skylanders Swap Force came out, that was one of the most exciting parts of the entire game, just being able to jump finally.
Right, which is one of the reasons why people hated and complained about Final Fantasy XIII. You couldn't jump. Yeah.
What Final Fantasy could you jump in?
14. But and next we can get into the most enjoyable platinum of 2013, which I think is the last topic that we have that is rolling over from last week. Start with you, my guy, this time.
All right. My most enjoyable platinum probably would be my first platinum I got, which was the Dragon Ball Z Budokai HD collection, and just going back and replaying those games, earning the trophies on them, and these were something I put Lord only knows how many hours into, when they originally came out on the PS2. So they're playing with my friends, and playing with one of my friends, and he could never beat me when I was 10, and he used to get so upset about it. And it's just going through and doing that, and that being my first platinum that I've ever earned was just nice little accomplishment, throwback to the PS2 era of gaming, and it was just very enjoyable all the way.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm going to steal some of your thunder from last week, Flip.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say Ratchet and Clank Into the Nexus.
Okay.
You used the word, you say enjoyable. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of times being a trophy hunter, it's tedious because you're playing games
over and over.
But there you go. Right,
yeah.
Let's get it straight. and you're playing these games, and you get to the point where it starts to exhaust you, but you push on because you're chasing the plat. And but with Into the Nexus, man, I enjoyed every stinking bit of it, and it was so refreshing. That's short, but very refreshing that we finally got back to a classic Ratchet and Clank game. Thank Insomniac for it. And it gave me the same feeling that I had when we played, Crack in Time. So, flat out, I had no more fun getting a platinum in that game in 2013.
Yeah, I got the platinum in that one. I really liked the first and the second playthrough, but the third playthrough, and I think it was like 2.5, maybe 4 playthroughs that it took me. I can't remember exactly, but it started to drag on after you've gotten all the upgrades and you're just trying to get those gold weapons. That's my least favorite part of that series.
I was kicking right and taking names by that point, man.
Yeah. For me, it was Guacamelee. Like I said, I think I mentioned it last week. That was the only game where I finished and then immediately started the next playthrough. You have to play the game once. You have to complete it once, and then you can play it on the harder difficulty, and then you have to complete it on that in order to get all the trophies. It has that Metroidvania style, so you had to do get all the collectibles and all the upgrades and find all the hidden stuff. But I think that was the most enjoyable platinum for me. It also had a really creative title. Well, the title wasn't creative. It was Guacamelee Platinum Trophy, which I hate when games do that. I like when they have like a creative title that makes you laugh and then a cool icon. This one didn't have that. It was just called Guacamelee Platinum Trophy. But then the description was, your Lucador mask is in the mail. And I thought it was funny.
Well, I'm going to be starting that playthrough tomorrow. I looked at it today.
Yeah.
I finished The Walking Dead, and I looked at Guacamelee and I said, you know what? I'm going to have something to say about that in our next episode 3.
Cool. Well, I'd love to hear what you think of it.
It's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed playing it. I don't think I'll try to go for the plat on it just because some of the platforming stuff is a little bit above my pay grade.
Yeah.
I don't have enough money to go buy some new controllers right now.
Yeah, it can get a little frustrating until you figure out how the controls want you to work. I remember when that game first came out, a lot of people were having trouble with the platinums or with the platforming sections, and what was the developer who made that game? I can't remember. Drinkbox, that's right. Yeah. They said if you needed help with anything, to ask them on Twitter, and they'd tell you what you needed to do. And their responses were, they weren't trying to be funny with it, but they'd just give you the list of the button prompts you need to do to get through everything. And each time I saw one of those, I thought it was funny because it looked so complicated. I wish I had an example, but even if I try to look it up now, it'd be going back like almost a year, so I wouldn't be able to find anything. But I thought that was always funny. All right, so we can move on to the news. It was kind of a slow week. We've got a few news topics to go over. We're going to try to keep this section kind of brief because most of it is kind of irrelevant. But hopefully in the weeks to come, we'll have more exciting news stories to come up with. But what we've got, Capcom expects to hire 100 new developers this year in prep for their PlayStation 4 and Xbox development ramp up. They said they're adding 100 new developers per year through 2018, which I thought was pretty extreme.
Yeah, that's called beefing up your shareholders' expectations and enthusiasm.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know what? It beefs up mine too. There's no game that I think I was more pleasantly surprised at than Dragon's Dogma last year. Matter of fact, there's no game that I spent more time playing with no trophy involved than Dark Arisen. And I thought it was just a fascinating Western-style JRPG, if I can call it that. So I'm looking forward to it. I just hope that they give us something, in the form of Dragon's Dogma outside of Deep Down.
So I tried to get into that. That was another one I just didn't really like. I don't know what it was. I felt lost when I started playing it. Like I got a couple hours in, and then seemed like I didn't know what to do next, and there wasn't much guidance, I guess, and I just...
That was one of the big complaints about it.
Yeah.
And so you're not by yourself in that. The cool thing, though, is that the combat style, I think, was untouched in any other RPG element. The grappling, the jumping, it was a mix between so many other games.
They stole so much from Shadow of the Colossus, though.
You know what, though? It's true. And I think it took some of those elements. Shadow of the Colossus was the first one like that. You're absolutely right. But never done within an RPG before, within a Western style RPG, and never done in flight on top of dragons or griffins or it's awesome. But actually, I take that back. You said Shadow of the Colossus did that. There was that flying animal, the giant, and there's the fur. So anyway, let me just take back all that stuff. It took a whole lot from Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, but I guess you could call it a failure with Resident Evil 6. I'm surprised they're not laying people off rather than hiring all these extra people. But that's what really surprised me when I read that. Next news topic we have...
a next-gen Street Fighter.
Yeah. Aren't they re-releasing Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter 5 again?
Street Fighter 4 Ultra comes out, I think, sometime around spring, but I remember them saying they didn't have the resources to do it, like port it over to, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
I think that's so weird how those Street Fighter games get re-released over and over and over again. It's strange to me.
Keeps them from having to make a whole one.
Next, the other thing, this isn't really PlayStation related, but EA is backing out of Nintendo development for a while.
There was an earlier rumor that from an anonymous source out of EA, but then my guy, I think you mentioned that the CEO came out, and what was the statement?
He just kind of said, basically, the Cliff Notes version of it, there was a COO came out and said that, it wasn't true, they've got stuff in development, just nothing announced, that they're still, working with Nintendo, and, that was about it.
Yeah, so this anonymous source could have been the most ultimate troll, because I think all the major sites reported a little bit of it, and in essence, the major complaint was that the Nintendo backed itself in a corner, and most of the major releases that come out for the platform and the Wii U don't sell. Of course, that doesn't take into account that the Mass Effect 2 that finally got released, or Mass Effect 3 that finally got released, when it was almost a few months after the PS3 and 360 versions of it, and it was a full $60 when the other titles were less than that, significantly less than that. So there's a lot of factors involved with it. Nintendo's incredibly strong, and I think anyone who ignores the platform would be foolish.
Yeah, but the Wii U isn't really doing too well. I'm surprised. It's hanging on, but just barely. I'm curious to see what Nintendo ends up doing with that. Then some other things I just wanted to briefly touch on. Looks like Disney abandoned the Star Wars 1313 trademark, so we may never see that game. It looked pretty good. I was excited for it when they showed that trailer at E3. I think that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It looked like it would have been good, so it's a shame that we won't ever see that game ever. So.
It's a shame that I never got a chance to play a really good Star Wars game, and I never got into any of the MMOs. So this was one that I did target that I was looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Did you play The Force Unleashed?
A lot of times we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It's because they canceled the project to retool the contract to give the development tools to someone else. I have no idea, but Star Wars is such a great franchise. I can't imagine it not landing with a really good developer that's going to deliver us a fantastic product. Very much in the same breath of what's happening with the Lord of the Rings series. Every game that came out for it sucks. I played the PC versions or the console versions, but I'm putting all my hopes and dreams into the new one that's coming out this year, Shadow of Mordor. So
yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, let's
Lego Lord of the Rings was good.
So what now?
Said Lego Lord of the Rings was good.
Play
That,
that.
oh,
Darn it.
As far as Star Wars license goes, EA was the one that was awarded it. So, and they've got some Star Wars games in the works. A new Battlefield by the people behind a new Star Wars Battlefront game by the people behind Battlefield. And they said BioWare's working on something, and pretty much all of their big developers are working on something Star Wars, but they just have been slow to announce it. So, who knows, we could get Knights of the Old Republic 3. That would be a nice surprise.
yeah. The next thing I wanted to bring up, which I thought was pretty shady, kind of want to tread lightly on this one. I don't want to spread false rumors, but there was the whole Xbox One Machinima thing. I don't know how true all of this is. Apparently, there was some deal that Machinima made with all their creators. Machinima is like an affiliate with YouTube, so you can go through, like if you're starting a gaming YouTube channel, you can partner with Machinima, and they give you revenue based on your videos. It's kind of like a partner program. I don't know if you guys know about it or not, but that's kind of a brief example of how that works. But they said they're giving people a $3 bonus for every 1,000 views for each video that they made where they showed Xbox One in a positive light. They weren't allowed to say anything bad about PlayStation or about Xbox One. They weren't allowed to mention PlayStation 4. Just anything positive about Xbox. They got paid $3 for every 1,000 views, which I think is super shady. I've heard tons of things similar to this coming from Machinima, so it doesn't surprise me. Microsoft came out later saying that they had no idea this was going on. I don't know whether or not that's true. That blew my mind, and I can't believe that was actually going on.
Well, that division didn't have any idea what was going on. It's classic corp speak, and that's
Yeah.
okay, right?
Right.
More power to Microsoft. Flip, that's how I look at it. Anything that they can do to turn the curve on and push popular opinion and their perspective, I think is a good thing. And they have the means and the resources to do it. But you said the right word. It's kind of shady.
Yeah.
Because what it's doing is it's manipulating the news feeds that we all get to try to get information.
Right.
At the end of the day, right? Truth should reign supreme. And so once the source is tainted, that's a problem. And whoever leaked this, I think is the truth secret that we all should applaud.
Right. That was another thing, is they weren't allowed to mention any part of this partnership. They weren't allowed to even briefly describe this deal that they had going on. I know Microsoft is desperate to get a small boost in their numbers, so I don't know if this was a way they were taken to make that happen, and then the secret got out, and now they try to cover their tracks. But yeah.
That was the issue that, I've heard about it, is that it's like you weren't allowed to say that you were getting paid for doing it, and it's if somebody wants to pay you for saying something positive about something, that's fine, but you should be able to say that you're being paid for it and not have to hide that fact. I think to me that alone was the biggest issue that I heard with it.
Right. So up next, apparently Housemarque is making Resogun DLC, which I'm very excited about. That was a cool thing to hear. Loved Resogun. Such a good game. I was actually playing it a little bit today. There's no announcement on release date. They also said they're coming out with their next PS4 project, but Resogun DLC is currently in development. So keep an eye out for that.
Do you know if the next project, any word on the next project is going to be another shoot 'em up?
They didn't say. I'd imagine, since that's everything they've ever done.
Huh?
Yeah, but it just says an upcoming PS4 project. Up next, DC Universe Online started their War of the Light DLC. That's for people who don't pay month to month. Like if you have the legendary status, you can start playing that yesterday. It comes out with a couple new raids, the Rage Powers, and I think that's it. For everybody who doesn't have the legendary status, that's available for everybody else on the 28th. So if you're big into DC Universe Online, they're still pushing out content. I think this is the 9th DLC they've done. So I want to play it. I've dabbled in the game a little bit. I just can't really get too into it for whatever reason. But the rage power sounded pretty cool. For those MMO players out there, the rage powers remind me a lot of the Brewmaster monks from World of Warcraft. That's the way I saw it. Anything you guys wanted to say about that?
No, but monks are awesome. Go ahead.
It's just nice to see, something on that scale succeed like that, because it's done very well for them. And I enjoy jumping back in DC Universe and running around Gotham and Metropolis from time to time. It's nice to see the continuation of them, keep going, keep supporting it, and it kind of feels like the PS4 is a little bit of a resurgence for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have that echo again. Yeah. Can we get that taken off? Okay. Nope, still there. Anyway. Give us 1 second, get this. I don't know whose side it's coming on.
We getting feedback as well?
Yes, you are. I'm not now. I think it's gone. Okay, cool. We're good. Anyway, The Last of Us, they elaborated a little bit more on their upcoming DLC. They're adding multi-faction battles. So I guess the DLC is taking place before the actual game started. Before we get into this, apparently we spoiled The Last of Us for somebody, which I feel terrible about. It was the most devastating news I heard. The second most devastating news I got last week. I apologize about that. So for in the future, whenever we talk spoilers, I'm gonna put like a spoiler alert notification on the screen so you guys can know to mute your speakers and when it's safe to turn them back on or fast forward. That we're never doing that again. So if we ever talk spoilers, there'll be a clear indicator of when that's over, because I don't want that to ever happen again. Anyway. Last of Us DLC, they elaborated on a little bit. It's supposed to take place before the original story. You play as Ellie and her friend Riley. I guess they're hanging out at a mall. This is before Ellie really knows all her combat skills. She doesn't really know what's going on. It's supposed to show you what it would be like to hang out with your friends in this post-apocalyptic world. But there'll still be the clickers and the infested or infected. I don't remember what they're called. There'll still be the gangs. But the way that, I guess, from what I read in the article, the way they're approaching it is you have to distract the clickers and lure them into the gangs. So that's where the multi-faction battles come into play. And I think that's really where all the combat's going to come in, which kind of makes me think it's going to be more of like a puzzler rather than the combat that we know.
Yeah, funky thing, right? A action puzzler.
Yeah.
It's the Naughty Dog, right?
Yeah.
And what was also interesting is that they mentioned that they wanted to make this DLC as content heavy as the single player. I thought that was interesting as well. You hear a lot of developers talk about that all the time to sell the DLC, and I'm wondering if in fact Naughty Dog can deliver. I mean, look, all of us are gonna take our time to play it on the 14th. And I'm trying to avoid as much hype as possible about it.
Yeah.
But every time I hear those guys speak, it pulls me in just a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm very skeptical about the DLC. I think Naughty Dog would be the company that could pull this off, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be too exciting. Just because there doesn't seem like without the combat element, I think the game would be completely different. But Naughty Dog's has never failed to impress, and I don't think they're about to now, but I'm very skeptical about what to expect. Like you said, I'm trying not to get too overhyped, but we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. The last piece of news that I've got, this is another one that's not terribly relevant, but when the PS4 came out, it was supposed to come out with 2 MMO launch titles. One of them was DC Universe Online. The other one was PlanetSide 2. They just made a new announcement. I think it came out yesterday. It was yesterday that they talked about this. They outlined the next 6 months of content, and they still have yet to announce anything about the PlayStation 4 port. So who knows if that's still coming to PS4 or not. They aren't talking about it at all, which I thought was strange. I haven't played PlanetSide 2, but I don't know if I even plan on it, but it's just surprising that the game is made by Sony, and you'd think that their first-party MMO would come over, and it still hasn't.
I haven't gotten into it as well. I want to play it. I probably need to play it. Again, I'm not a heavy MMO player. But yeah, I mean, matter of fact, that's got to be on my to-do list.
Yeah.
That is surprising, though. You would think that they would line that up. And I don't know if they're looking at the install base, but at the end of the day, I think Sony has even said so much that they're incredibly surprised at how well the PS4 is doing. And so it's probably fast-tracked, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As far as I think it's, and I just, think it's just a matter of, getting it switched over instead of, doing a rush job, take your time to do it right. And, hopefully we get it, and ideally it'd be nice if we got it soon, because, there's something more to play is always a plus for all of us.
Yeah.
And you're right, Mike, guys. Sony has done, I think we all agree, Sony keeps things really close to the chest. They're not the ones that come out and dump the entire load on you all at once. It's you get their news when they're darn ready to give it to you. And we just get very random or general numbers. The total number of titles they plan to release over the next few years, how many games are in development, but never specificity. So yeah, I hope, I'm hoping for it.
Yeah.
So that, I think they kind of learned their lesson, like with The Last Guardian, what was that, 7 years ago it was announced,
and Final Fantasy 15 versus 13 or whatever they called it.
And it's, now they're not, before they had to do it because they were playing from behind, but now, they can just sit there and drop a breadcrumb every now and then, and we're gonna gobble it up, and you'd be running over each other for the next one.
Yeah.
Why did you bring up the last Guardian?
Well, like they announced it, and it.
No, you're so right. No, I'm just saying you're 100% right.
And it's when you look back to the position Sony was in, with the PlayStation brand then, they were playing from behind, so they had to sit there and, fire all 6 bullets, that they had in their chamber, and say, hey, this is what we have, get excited for the PlayStation 3. Now everyone's already excited for the PlayStation 4, and they can slowly, wait till things are more ready before they start announcing them. So that way there's not the constant disappointment of The Last Guardian. Is it coming? Is it not? Is it still in development? Is it not? They can do it on their terms when the product's getting ready, and just drop those breadcrumbs and not have this constant hem-ho about this game that, still kind of up in the air on at this point.
Yeah.
On when we're ever going to see it.
Yeah. All right. That is all of the news items that we've got for this week. So, like I said, kind of a slow week, but we kind of mentioned anything that was PlayStation related that we could get into. Like I said, hopefully things get a little more interesting in the weeks to come. Next, we want to talk about the new releases on the PlayStation update, and then we'll get into what we've been playing for this week, and then what to look forward to for next week. So, we didn't mention games that came out last week. We skipped over Tiny Brains came out for the PS3, which is like a puzzle platformer, which I heard nothing but bad things about. I heard it's pretty terrible. Came out for the PS4 a few weeks prior. I almost picked it up. It was $20 though, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. Also, The Raven, Legacy of a Master Thief, and Twisted Lands Shadow Town were both PS3 releases. I think they're both point-and-click adventures. The Raven, I think, is like a episodic 3-part point-and-click adventure. I don't know. I didn't play either of them. Did either of you guys check them out?
No.
Okay.
I did put the demo for Tiny Brains, and thank goodness for demos.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun at first. I think it tried to be endearing. I think it's clever how they use each one of, or not certainly the first to do it, but each one of the 4 or 5 playable Brainiac animals can use certain powers to solve certain things. But after I played through the demo, which was pretty lengthy, I had no desire to continue.
Yeah.
And that's where it fails, for me at least.
Yeah. And then this week, for the 21st of January, we got Ollie Ollie on the PlayStation Vita, which looks like a retro 8-bit side-scrolling Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It looked okay. It wasn't something that really interested me enough. I think I've played all the Tony Hawk-esque games that I can handle. So I wasn't too impressed with the gameplay. I watched a few of the trailers and some gameplay videos on YouTube and didn't really pique my interest enough. But it's $10.39 if you're our PlayStation Plus subscriber and $12.99 if you are not. Either of you pick that up?
No.
Yeah.
Don't have to be so.
But that was it for the new releases for this week. So, like I said, another slow week in that aspect as well. PlayStation Plus had a few new games come out. We've got Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons for the PlayStation 3, which I was live streaming a little bit. My playthrough should be going up. I think it starts tomorrow is when I have it scheduled to upload. I live streamed that a little bit. Came out on Xbox a while ago. It's pretty unique in the way you control both brothers at the same time. I had fun with it. I enjoy it. If you haven't played it, I definitely recommend it. It's pretty short. It's only like 3 hours long. But it's good the whole time. Then also for PlayStation Plus on Vita, Worms Battle Island came out. I'm not really into the Worms game, so I didn't check that one out at all. Then as far as demos, we've got Dragon Ball Z, The Battle of Z, Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13, and I don't know how to pronounce this one. I think it's Tukaiden, The Age of Demons, was on Vita. So that is everything that came out this week. I think we played most of those demos, so we'll talk about those here in just a second when we get into what we've been playing for the past week. But yeah, that's what you have to look forward to this week. Not a whole lot. Normally I show our trophy stats, but I wasn't able to get the screenshots. With all the technical issues that we had, I wasn't able to pull that up. So skipping that for this week, but we'll be back with that next week. We'll show our trophy stats and our improvements from week to week. But let's get into what we've been playing. DMC, what have you been up to?
Well, so I thankfully finished in Platinum One Piece, Pirate Warriors 2.
Oh, nice.
I got finished with the Walking Dead, finally on the last man through the door on this one, and completed that game. And literally, I think I completed it at 4 o'clock today.
Did you like it?
Forgive me, folks who played this thing 15 years ago, but what a wonderful, wonderful, well-told story.
Yeah.
And you know what's going to happen. One of the two is going to, whatever. I don't want to spoil anything, but now done. Telltale has made me a fan for life. And where I would have paused to pick up The Wolf Among Us, I'm getting that tonight. So that's going to be something on my radar, but it's nothing new. I think both of you guys have already played it.
Right.
So it frees me up. And right now, I got Tales of Exolia. I'm going to jump on some of these video games that I have. Guacamole's on my list to play, and I'm going to try to attack a new game, a game that's recently been released. And so that's kind of what I've had going on.
Cool. Was it just season 1 of Walking Dead you played, or did you start
Just
season 2?
Season 1.
Okay.
Yeah, the entire season.
Yeah.
I know that we only have one episode from the new season, right? Season 2, all that remains.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to jump on that as well.
Yeah, that just recently came out last. I think it was very close to exactly a month ago. It was just before Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. When you start playing The Wolf Among Us, you said you're going to start that tonight. It's completely different. It has the same gameplay style, but rather than playing this dark, bleak world, everything's all neon and colorful, and the story is still pretty dark, but it feels different. It has a different feel to it.
Well, thank you for that, because I need it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I probably could have finished the game last night, but it was dark, and I figured, you know what, I'd rather finish this in the daylight. That makes it so
Yeah.
So I'm a whip in that regard, right? So.
Well, when you complete episode 1 of The Wolf Among Us, you gotta let us know. what he thought of the ending, because I can tell you, once I beat it, I was looking to see if there was a second ending or something to it that I might have missed.
Oh, these episodes. You know what? And we touched on this last week, guys, but it only makes me just want the Game of Thrones version so much more, right? and these guys, these developers, and it's not technically savvy. Obviously, there is a decision tree, a very impressive decision tree that they build out. But you feel engaged.
Yeah.
And you feel the emotion. And it doesn't mean that every character is very well acted, but they deliver the feeling and the intensity and the moment that you want, and it's believable within the actual game, and that's the best that any game can deliver. Not calling it the best game, but it's absolutely one of the best experiences you can have. Certainly on handheld. Telltale, I'm fans of them from here on out.
Yeah. Did you play The Walking Dead on your Vita or on the PS3?
It was on the Vita. Loved it. I'm going to tell you, I originally played it last year, just the first episode, or half of the first episode, on the PS3, and never finished it. And something about a game being on the Vita. I very rarely take the Vita outside the house.
Yeah.
You know, but when you can sit on your thinking throne and play it, you know, or at the kitchen table, or you know, you can spend a couple hours before you go to bed. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. I don't know if that makes me more lazy or just more convenient, but
Yeah.
you know,
Have you used the remote player at the PS4 for the Vita?
I have.
You like it?
I love it. I love it, and it's much cleaner than for the games that supported it for the PS3.
Right.
I think I got a little far away from. I tried it with NAC originally. It was a little far away from my router when when NAC was doing this spinning tornado thing, and it shuddered and it had some framework issues there.
Yeah, I had some issues with NAC too. I think that's the game, not the.
Think so? Okay.
Yeah, because I guess from game to game it varies on the quality of it. Because like Resogun works, and Assassin's Creed 4 is phenomenal, but NAC I had a bunch of issues with it as well. I also found out recently, I didn't know this, I didn't know this the whole time, but I guess the remote play doesn't have to be local. I thought you had to have both systems connected to the same Wi-Fi network, but you don't. You can actually take your PS4 with you like on vacation, or your Vita with you on vacation and play the PS4. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
So, have you played anything recently, Mike Guy? How'd your week go?
Well, I finished up Assassin's Creed Liberation. Got platinum for that on Saturday. Yeah, I almost preferred my 50 hours in One Piece compared to the 16 hours it took for Liberation, just because they trimmed back some things on it, but you know, got that out of the way, and I finally drank the Persona 4 Kool-Aid. Get that up on PlayStation 2 because I don't own a Vita. But I've been like delving headfirst into that, so my trophy stats are going to be a little stagnant. So I get to beat that and get that out of the way. But I've got Tomb Raider Definitive Edition next week coming out that I'm looking forward to, and probably going to look to try to get the platinum on that and go for that. I know it's got a multiplayer grind on it, but I really enjoyed it the first time around and kind of expecting the same this time around.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to pick it up. I want to, but not sure if I'm going. I haven't made the decision yet. Also, what you played, you said you checked out the Final Fantasy 13 demo, DMC. Did you want to just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to try to do this very safe here. For those who are in the middle of playing Final Fantasy 13.1, 13.2, but let me just talk about what they've changed or improved on. From a storage perspective, absolutely beautiful. I mean, I think most of it's cinematics. You look at, they start off the demo with a very lengthy CG, what appears to be CG presentation that mirrors the introductions to the gameplay. Very beautiful game. Cannot be denied the artists that are working on this thing. With respect to the game itself, the demos, they changed the fighting style almost completely. The fighting mechanics for this game from 1 to 2 had a slight variation on it. but 3 is completely different. Don't know how folks are going to feel with it. It took me a while to get used to it. And Mike, you can probably speak to a Final Fantasy game. I think was it 10 that with the 3 girls? They
Yes.
changed outfits all the time. What was that?
That's 10-2.
10-2, yeah. So there's some aspects of that involved with it. Also,
I heard each outfit changes your abilities that you have access to.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's and there's customization within the outfits that you can change in. I mean, so they Lightning is highly sexualized, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But there absolutely is an art design that they're trying to present here and appealing to a multitude of different masses. Also, there's little stuff that made me laugh. We talked about jumping. Now, I want to let you get in here too, my guy, because I know you played it, but we talked about jumping earlier with Nino Conan and how it wasn't presented in Final Fantasy 13-1. There is a slight element to it in 13-2. You'll pick this up, Flip. But in 13-3, you can do cartwheels there on it. No, I'm just kidding, but you can jump.
Yeah.
They made it very, very clear that they don't want to hear anybody complaining about jumping in Final Fantasy Lightning Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what are your thoughts,
Cool.
Mike?
Just from like the combat perspective, I was going to just kind of jump in there and enjoy the combat. I just went through, beat the demo once and got rid of it, threw it out there just because I'm excited for the game when it comes out next month. So it kind of gives you a small section to play, but it gives you a decent time frame to play it in. But it's the combat's fun. I enjoyed it. The switching costumes, as Twitchy said, Flip. It does assign different powers to it. It's nice that when your like gauge for how many attacks you can do runs out of one costume, you switch to the next one and you can keep attacking, and you can kind of circle around like that, which I kind of like and kind of enjoy doing that. So you can keep the fight going, and it's like I just feel that with this franchise, they're making it even harder for me now to go back and fetch the first one, because I just feel that, in my opinion, they keep improving the combat.
Yeah, a couple interesting things as well is that now you have a stamina gauge, apparently. So when you're running around outside of combat, you just can't run up. Oh, by the way, you can run. So there's a walking mechanic built in, and then you can hold down, I believe it's either L2 or R2 to run. So, but Lightning does get tired. So I guess these elements, I would assume, you can increase over time as you build up. Same thing with the attack ATB gauge. For example, her base combat has the most amount of hits you can make before you get tired or run out of actual hits. And then there's this very, very overpowered dragon costume that she can wear. And I think you only get 3 hits with that, But man, those hits are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, so I can imagine how many different costumes she's going to have, the customizations associated with those costumes, and the varied effect. I can see Square releasing downloadable content involving crazy costumes for $4.99, and I just have to be strong in that eye.
Yeah, I heard if you get the collector's edition, I saw you get the Eris Gainsborough outfit, where Lightning's dressed as Eris and she attacks with the flower basket. And then I saw screenshots on their website of Lightning dressed up as Cloud Strife, and she had the Buster Sword.
There you go back at the demo. At the very end of the demo, one of the things they show her go through a series of costumes, standing up, and then the very last one, she's sitting there, Cloud's off, she throws up the big giant sword.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, okay,
That's cool.
Cloud is, I think, for GameStop pre-orders, so I pre-ordered mine from there, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what special abilities that costume gets.
Yeah. See, I'm doing the collector's edition from SquareEnix.com. But I didn't play the demo. I'm still trying to get through the first 2 games, so I haven't played that yet. Is there anything else you played that you wanted to mention before we move on?
No, it covers everything there.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll get into what I've been playing. I've had a pretty hectic week, so I didn't have a lot of gaming time. Not a big scoring week for me. I played Brothers, like I mentioned. Really enjoyed what I played of that. I haven't gotten the trophies yet because I haven't finished the game. I guess from what everyone said is to play the game once, just to not really worry about the trophies at all. Just get the immersive experience, and then go back through chapter select and get the trophies. You can pick them up within an hour or so. They're all pretty simple, I guess. But I played through that. Then I played the Dragon Ball Z demo. Did either of you play that?
Yeah, I've played the demo.
Okay.
Played it a couple weeks ago. I can't. Just came out.
Oh, yeah. I missed when it first came out. It kind of snuck up on me. I played through that. I thought that was actually a lot more enjoyable than I expected it to be. So I like that a lot. I put my video up on YouTube, and a lot of people enjoyed watching that. So I might actually pick that game up too. So and that comes out next week. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Then I played some more Final Fantasy 13. I didn't get too much further, but I played it a little bit. I'm gonna be putting in a lot more time into that this week. But that's really it for me. Like I said, I've had a lot of hectic stuff going on, so next week will be a lot better. But that's it for what we've been playing. We can talk about new releases for next week. We've got the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, the Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z, and then the PlayStation Plus perks. Smart As is coming to Vita, and I think that's it. Yeah. And then also, what'd you say?
I'm on the fence for Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Man, that's a beautiful game.
Yeah, I wish I could play it again for the first time. I wish I hadn't already played the game.
I haven't played the game yet, and I'm wondering, do I need to? See, here's the thing, right? This darn PlayStation Plus is so awesome. It keeps on giving me free games that I haven't played. I still have BioShock in front of me,
Right.
and I haven't played BioShock yet. And I don't know if have you guys had a chance to play it at all?
I played a bit of it when it first came out, but then had too many games stack up on me and kind of overlooked it. But I'm looking to go back to it pretty soon.
All right, so
I did my foot in the water for a little bit, but that was about it.
all right, so I'm going to dive into BioShock. That's I said I was going to get to a new game. And that's not technically new, but I want to dive into that. So I think I'm going to pass on Definitive Edition Tomb Raider right now. But you guys are jumping. At least I know you are, my guy. You're going to jump in, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't played Tomb Raider, it's pretty highly recommended. I liked it a lot. If you like Uncharted, it's basically Uncharted. It's very, very similar. So.
Very similar.
Yeah, I think you'd like it a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. A lot of people say that it's either on par, and of course there's a contingent of folks out there that even like it more. But I gotta play both of them, right? So at the end of the day, I'm gonna do BioShock and then I'm gonna hopefully get a discounted Definitive Edition Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our show for this week. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we end this?
No, I'm good, man. I got guacamole talked it up so much, but I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna get mad and throw my feet against the wall. My guy, like you said, when I get to that one part that I can't pass.
That break your feet up.
Yeah.
I don't see that happen. But it's a great game, and it's very fun. It's like everything Flip has said about it is, I would second that.
Yeah, it's very good. I liked it a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and end the show here. If any of you guys want to call in, and we'll just open up to open gaming talk. I don't know if a lot of the people who said they wanted to swing by the live stream, it doesn't look like they showed up. We've got a few viewers, but if any of you guys want to call in, the number is 302-TCP show. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on iTunes, if you want to call that number and leave a voicemail, we could always address that at this point of the show next week. So, we'll leave that going for a couple minutes if you guys have anything else you'd like to talk about. And if we don't get any attention, then we'll just end this.
I don't have anything in particular. Yeah.
We talk about most anticipated games. What are you really looking forward to?
An active gaming backlog. Is that possible?
Yeah.
I have so many new games that I haven't played yet.
Right. I'm in the same boat.
And if we're talking about stuff anticipated, I'd have to say Persona 5 has quickly jumped onto my most anticipated games list, and I'll be eagerly awaiting and scratching and clawing for every little piece of information about that comes down the pipeline, going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, and just to follow up on the earlier statement that we talked about in our news section regarding to your earlier point, Mike, Peter Moore recently made a statement as well, rebuking the comment, and so maybe this unprecedented partnership will continue, and we'll start to see some fantastic EA Nintendo games, huh?
That'd be nice. Nintendo could really use support from some of the other companies to get out there and put on their hardware and to help them out. Kind of hate to see them go the way the way the buffalo.
Is Persona 4 Arena game, is that a PS Vita only? I don't recall.
It's PS3.
Yeah.
It's PS3 as well?
Right.
Yeah.
So now, and I bring that up, Mike, because I'm wondering, are you going to delve into that now that you're fans of Teddy and all those other great characters, right?
Once I get Persona 4 out of the way and finish that, and I just re-downloaded Persona 4 Arena, and I plan on jumping in that and seeing where that takes me, because it's like filed this under like rumor and unconfirmed at the moment, but from what someone posted on one of the Facebook groups I'm a part of, that Atlas, however you pronounce it, is supposedly putting the PSN versions of Persona 3 and Persona 2 on sale next week. So, and that I guess that was from their Twitter feed, and when I saw the link, I just kind of clicked on it, looked at it, and kind of moved away and just looked at the comments, what they put. So, hoping that does come true, because jump into Persona 3 and split some time between that and Persona 4 Arena.
Okay. Hey Flip, you ever got into the Demon Soul or Dark Souls games?
I've been watching a lot of Dark Souls, what the new one's Dark Souls, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Dark Souls live streams lately. I don't know how I got started on that, but I've never played the game myself. I played the Dark Souls 2 beta, which was like a 3-hour beta that they had going, but that's the biggest amount of time that I've spent with that.
Oh, how did the gameplay? Folks always fall into two categories, right? It's never really on the fence issue. They either liked it or hated it.
Mm-hmm.
What is your first take on the beta, which I understand is pretty much on par with the typical gameplay associated with the Souls series?
Yeah, the gameplay seemed exactly the same as everything I've seen from other people play in Dark Souls. I think there were 6 or 7 different classes you could start off with. I don't know if there's a class system in the first one because I haven't played it, but the game was very hard. It was very confusing trying to figure out where to go, and I don't think I got very far. I didn't beat the beta.
All right. Well, I'm definitely. I didn't play the beta, but I'm definitely picking that up in the next few months, and that's one of the deals where I think you mentioned it before. I'm buying the book with it, and gosh darn it, I'm going to be engrossed.
Yeah, I've seen the most recent live stream I saw. Some guy was like on his 7th New Game Plus. I don't understand what the point of that is. Like, why you would play the game that many times over. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. This is a carryover from Demon Souls, and basically, at each completion of the game, the actual difficulty ramps up at a certain level.
okay.
Obviously, your character ramps up as you increase in experience, but the difficulty ramps up at the tune of around 7 to 8%. I believe it's with Demon Souls. I don't know what the percentage is for Dark Souls, and then it caps at the eighth completion. And so, for a lot of folks who are fans of the series, getting to the eighth level means that there's nothing else to be obtained, right? You beat the hardest difficulty associated with demons and Dark Souls. Yeah, that's amazing though. I can't do that. I put in 280 plus hours of Dark Souls 1 for the platinum. And when you talk about playing that game 8 times, amazing. I'm not that guy though. I can't do it.
How many playthroughs did it take you for the platinum?
One.
Oh, okay.
I think one playthrough, I believe. You know, I might be lying. I don't remember. I think 2.
You're not under oath, so you're safe.
I am under oath. I'm under oath at the fans of Trophy Chasers. I don't remember. Oh, and I reneged on something too. Flip, I apologize, man. I think I mentioned last week that I was going to get you the hours that I took the platinum Final Fantasy 13-1, and I didn't look that up. You know, I didn't check my save. I think on the save, if you look at it, it tells you how many hours you played it. So
right.
I'm not 100% sure. Now, I'll check that. Do you? Is that true?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I think it stops at like 99 hours.
No, it doesn't. It's impossible.
I'm like the clock, because I know my roommate, when he played through and beat it, like the clock was like 99 all the way across, and it's so like I don't know if it just starts over or what.
You know, I remember my wife mentioned that it was a darn shame that I put that many hours into that game. So I know somehow I remember 140 or 150 or 180, one of those numbers. And ever since then, I never let her find out how long I've been spending on games.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we don't have any callers. But like I said, every week at the end of the show, just like we've been doing, it's just open gaming talk. Not really any specific topics, just anything you guys want to talk about. Guess we have another week where we don't have any callers. Hopefully that changes here pretty soon. We've got some giveaways for the callers when they do call in, so that's still a thing. Like I said, we got the Skylanders Swap Force. We got some PlayStation Network gift cards. Some other various PS3, PS4, or PS3 games. I don't know. So who knows? If you work up the courage to call in, you might just win something. So that wraps up this week. Thank you all for watching. Like I said, this will be posted up on YouTube here very shortly, and then once I get the iTunes thing sorted out, I think it's going through certification right now. It should be up on iTunes as well. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next week.